All right, welcome back to Gage Your Health, episode 6. We have a very special guest on. We have a producer, Shark. How you doing today, bud?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Gage.
Of course, man. Always a pleasure.
U- Usually I'm behind the scenes.
Well, today it's a little different, so we're going to see how this goes. Just kidding, bud. Um, so, with the holidays coming up, we're going to talk about seasonal depression, which is actually called, the full name of it is seasonal affective disorder, which
Oh,
is sad, which
It's
is
an
what it's
actual
called.
disorder?
Yeah, it is an actual like medical thing where if you go to a doctor and you can get diagnosed with it. It isn't really so much of a thing that a lot of people go and get help for because it is more of like it's the winter blues type of thing. But it is something that does affect a lot of people and affects, here it says, more than 3 million people in the US per year. And I just wanted to talk about it because it does affect, normal depression as well. And to people with normal depression and normal mental health issues, it can really, this type of year can really turn it over and really, make bad things happen, and with just the weather outside, with how everybody feels, with how dark it gets early, it's just a very bad time of year for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and especially with COVID now, it's probably even worse.
Yeah, exactly. COVID is leading into a lot of people, being shut in more, and this kind of being more of a pronounced thing because of that, because people are shut in more, they have less interaction with people, they see outside less, that they're going to have these issues and these symptoms more often and more, pronounced and more harshly. It's going to be felt a lot worse, which is just something that I wanted to speak about because it is going to be Christmas time very soon. It is Christmas time. It's going to be Christmas very soon. So it is something that, does hit home with me personally because I've gone through this my entire life. Every single winter, it feels the same. It just kind of gets gray, and then I feel gray. I don't know if you feel similar on that aspect.
No, I definitely have felt that way more recently than before.
Mhm.
Like growing up, I didn't mind it at all, but
Is that the COVID, or is that the whole just
Like-
adjustment to like adult life in itself too? Because that's another whole big thing that can lead into anxieties and depression and stuff. Is that transition? Is that like question mark of, well, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do?
yeah, I think for me it was that transition to like being an adult. When I was younger, it didn't really matter to me. I didn't really have that
Yeah.
depression, but I think just having more time alone as an adult brought that out.
Yeah. No, I understand 100% what you mean, and like that's what really happened to me in college. When I was alone, or not really alone, but when I didn't have people like my brother, my sister, my parents, my grandparents to completely vent to and completely open up to like that, I felt like I didn't have that outlet. I didn't have that way to talk to people. And again, it relates back to this because that's the whole thing, is it makes people feel disconnected from the world. And that's like, I did some research on it today, and that's like one of the big things that people say is they feel a disconnect from the world. And I can completely agree. Like,
Yeah, me too. That's exactly how I would feel.
it's been a pretty much of like coasting by since it started to, get darker, since daylight savings hit, since all that kind of stuff hit. It's just been a very glidey thing. My life's been, it's been 3 days and I haven't even noticed. I went to work 3 days in a row and did this, did things 3 days in a row, and then I basically blink and I'm like, oh my God, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah, time just kind of
Rolls
rolls
into
together.
itself. Yeah.
Not realizing that days are just going by, and
Yeah.
sometimes I'm just lacking that motivation to do more.
And then once you realize that, you've lacked motivation for those however long you've been in that funk for, you have a day eventually where, you do, kind of lighten up a little bit and you see all the unproductiveness you've had. So you go, and that sets it into an actual depressive episode. I mean, that maybe not with you personally, but like I was just saying you as like a general term, that's at least what happens with me. That's what I know what happens with certain people I know that this does affect.
Yeah, there have been times where I felt like I was losing control
Mhm.
and I didn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
And more so, what would help me is I kind of cleared my head and just realized like these issues aren't really
they're not
gonna
as
be forever.
real
They're
as
temporary.
yeah, and
I don't feel this way all the time. Like, why do I feel this way now? So I try to like figure out
get
what's
to the
going
root
on.
get to the root of the issue 100%. And that's a big thing with depression and everything. It's not, don't get me wrong, it is a very serious thing, and it needs to be treated. And if you are suffering from that, it's fine, get help with it. However, the thoughts that people think when they're going through this, it doesn't affect, it's not 100% real all the time. It's not rational all the time. And stuff like this, like seasonal depression, can really affect that, especially with COVID going on and parents having to supply Christmas presents for their kids, Hanukkah presents for their kids, any sort of responsibility. A lot of people haven't had the livelihood this year. So I can only imagine the people that actually have those types of responsibilities are even feeling the effects more and more and more.
Yeah, it's much heavier this time of year with the COVID rolling around.
Yeah. And I did want to point out there are plenty of ways you can actually get help with seasonal depression. Before we move on with that, you can go to, let me bring it up real quick. It is called SAMHSA National Helpline. It's 1-800-662-HELP, and it's just basically a 365-day-a-year treatment thing where they will, talk you down, refer you to treatment specialists, yada, yada, help you out where you need to go. And if you don't even feel comfortable talking to somebody on, like, the phone, there are places you can go. I believe one was 365 Talk I saw. There's a million of them out right now. But that'll really help people with being locked up inside the house. If you do need to talk to somebody, if you are feeling alone, if you are feeling trapped, that's a very good outlet and way to go.
What does that acronym stand for?
SAMHSA stands for Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. So it is seems like a national or a government-run thing, but 24-hour a day, 365-day a year, English and Spanish for all the Spanish-speaking listeners of Gage Your Health out there.
It's good to know that the government's always doing something, right?
They always kind of have been. There's never been enough money into it. Like, again, this is just a call helpline. They could, in my opinion, this can go on, but, there should be a little bit more of a help with mental health as there is with physical ailments and whatnot.
Yeah, sometimes calling somebody isn't always the best thing.
Exactly. Like, some people need true treatment, and because they don't have the top-notch insurance that, it might cover all their bodily harm but doesn't cover their mental issues, they won't be able to get that treatment. And that's a real sin. And it really just kind of strikes me in the wrong way with, again, but that's a whole nother discussion that we can have another time. That's something that doesn't need to be completely delved into. That's a 45-minute conversation right there. But again, with the seasonal depression and the, the winter and how cold it is, how gray it is, and how gray everybody's been feeling out there, there are ways to get out of it. There are ways to, cope with it. And a lot of people, it's basic stuff. It's waking up early. It's working out. It's eating right. It's doing active things, not sitting on your butt and being unproductive. And, as hard as that is to even me sometimes, I have days on end where I don't move. I don't even notice it. But it is what it is. But it's something as simple as getting up and moving.
Yeah, it's so hard to get into those habits.
Yeah,
but
to
once
get into
you
healthy
do,
habits.
It helps so much. And I know for me, it was very hard to get into these habits, like exercising every day. That was the one thing that I knew I needed to do, but sometimes I would just lose motivation for like months on end. And then at one point, I'd be like, all right, I need to get out of this hole and start working out.
Yeah, and do something and turn it around. But that's the whole point of it. Is that hole is it's so difficult to climb out of that original hole, and this season is just making that hole feel a little bit deeper, even if it's not actually deeper.
And then once I got out of there, it was easier to add more things onto my plate. Like, oh, I'm gonna start eating healthy now. So it's like after the
once
gym,
you get out of that depression mode, you can go, okay, how can I better myself? After that kind of dark cloud is lifted off your head, you can go, all right, well, how do I do better then? How do I make sure that cloud doesn't come back? And it is very difficult to make sure it doesn't come back.
Yeah, and a lot of times people try to add way too much onto their plate at once, like way too much of a change. It's like what helped me was just doing it like slowly. So instead of like, oh, I have to work out every day, just like work out like one day out of the week and see how that makes you feel.
Like Melissa said a couple weeks ago, you know, baby steps are steps. So it is what it is. As long as you keep moving forward and it's continued, you know, you're still moving in the right direction, and that's the biggest thing. That is the most important thing by far, is just moving in the right direction. Now with this seasonal thing and with COVID going around and, you know, people not being able to get the money that, you know, they might need to, you know, be hold themselves responsible, or, you know, or what's the word I'm looking for?
Could you repeat where you started again?
Yeah. With COVID going around and people not being able to. What's the fucking word I'm looking for?
Supply.
Thank you. With COVID going around and people not being able to supply the ones they love, and not being able to supply their Christmases, and not being able to supply the dinners and everything like that, then, you know, it really makes people feel like this hole's a lot bigger, even when it's, you know, even their regular seasonal depression might be bad, but now they can't supply these people. They can't give these people what they have always given them, so it's even worse.
Yeah, that burden just got 10 times heavier.
Exactly. So, you know, there are a lot of ways to reach out and to help them and to help people that are in worse shape than you may be. I know a lot of certain industries have been affected a lot worse than others. Restaurant industries, I know, have been affected horribly. You can go to Salvation Army and donate there. You can go to any grocery store or anything. There will be a Walmart a Santa ringing a bell outside, and you can definitely donate and help your way out and help everyone out in that way.
Yeah, I always like to drop some money in there whenever I see him at the store.
Yeah, definitely this year out of all, donate more and more. I work at a restaurant myself, and somebody actually came in and said Merry Christmas and gave me a $20 tip. So that was
Oh, what a nice guy.
it was awesome. It made my day. And then a woman without a mask came on. It was a totally different story.
Could you imagine if people are like that all year long instead of just during
No,
the seasons?
I couldn't. It would be too nice of a world. It would be too good. It wouldn't be the world we live in.
Well, we'll teach everyone how to deal with it.
Hopefully one day we will. But, you know, as of that, again, help out as much as you can this season. It is very important, especially with the holidays coming around. You know, people are feeling worse. It is a harder time of year for a lot of people. So help out as much as you can. Do what you can, and, you know, we'll get through it, and COVID will end eventually, right?
Let's hope soon.
Yeah, I agree. All right.